In this video, we are finally going to do some pre-processing in Python. So what we're going to do first of all is to import our packages and run this cell. So now we have imported the NumPy package as np, the pandas package as pd, and we have also imported some functions we have seen before, like the train test split, logistic regression, and the accuracy score. Next, we will need a dataset, and the dataset that we will be using in this section is the very famous Titanic dataset. So the Titanic dataset is, for instance, in the Seaborn package, which we are going to load it from. So we are going to use the Seaborn command load dataset, and we are also going to print out the head of the dataset. So let us run this cell, and here we see how the dataset looks. So first of all, we have this survived column, which tells us if the person survived the Titanic accident or not. So 0 means that he or she died, and 1 means that he or she survived. The next here is the passenger class. And here we see that it can have first class, third class, second class, and it might also have some other values. The next is the sex column, which is either male or female. And then we have the age. And here we also see some missing data for the first time. So missing data are these NaN data, which stands for not a number. The next column tells you if the person have any siblings or spouses on board on the Titanic ship. And here you have the number. So here you have a person having 3 siblings or spouses. The next here tells you about the parent-child relationship. So parent or child. And here you have how much the person paid to be on board on the Titanic ship. So you see some tickets are more expensive than others. Here you have the city, or the shorthand notation for the city which the person embarked from. Here you have the class once more, but now only written out like the third P class 3, 1 is the first class, and so on. Next you have the who column, which is very similar to the sex column, only now it also contains the child category. Then you have a true-false column, which tells you if it is an adult male. Next we have the deck, which tells you which deck the person was on. Also you have embarked town, which is basically just writing out. This S here stands for Southampton, so embarked town, and embarked tells you the same information. Then we have the 2 last column, 1, which is alive, and the last one is the alone column, which tells you if the person was alone on the ship or not. So we have quite a lot of columns here and a lot of duplicated information. So first of all, we are just going to get a summary of the data. So we write Titanic.describe to get a summary of the information and then run this cell. And here we see a summary of all the numerical columns. So some interesting things are that in the survived column, we have 891 people, and we see from the mean that only 38% of them actually survived. The other kind of information here, like the mean and the max and the quantile, is not really useful for us, since we already know that the survived column can only be 0 or 1. Next, we have the passenger class and just the information here. And it seems like we have 3 classes here, with the minimum being 1 and the maximum being class 3. So here we see that only 714 of the observation contain the age column. So here we have some missing data that we need to take care of. Additionally, the mean age of the passenger is 29.6. And here we have also some other information like the standard deviation. And it seems like the youngest passenger was quite young, only being an infant. And the oldest passenger was 80. And here we also have some other data, but all of those have all the value and the mean and the standard deviation. So let's also get some information about the columns. So here we will see how many missing values we have. So every feature which have not 891 observation has some missing data. So the age, the embarked, and also the deck here has some missing data. What we see from the deck column here is that it has quite a lot of missing data. So much of the data is missing that I will think that this column here is essentially useless. So the first thing we do is just to remove this deck feature here because too much of the information is missing. So we can drop this row with Titanic.drop, which works for all data frames. And the column we want to drop is the deck column. And also we want to change the data set. So I'm going to say that inPlace equals true. So this will make sure that we actually change the dataset. Afterwards, I want to print out the head of the dataset. Okay, so here is our new dataset. And here we see no deck column. One thing you should note is that if I try to run this cell again, I will get an error because it now does not have a deck column. So it cannot drop it. So if you get an error like this, that the deck column is not found in the access, it's because it's already dropped. So do not run this cell twice. Next we have the age column, which also, if you recall, have some missing data here, but it only has a bit under 200 missing data. So it might be some useful information here that we want to keep. And since it's so many, a natural thing to do would be to just fill in these missing values, with, for example, the mean. So let's do that. So first of all, I need to compute the mean age. And this is done with taking the age column and just taking the mean. Next, I want to take the Titanic dataset and fill in all the missing values with the mean age. And here we use the fill NA with value equals mean age. And also here, I want the inPlace equals true so that it actually does the filling in part. So let me run this, and I got an error here because I forgot to take in the row here, which is going to be age. So let's run it again. And now we can see that the missing values actually got filled in with taking the head. And now we see that there's no missing data here. So let's have some more data, for instance, 10. So here we have that the fifth row here, if we go up to our old data set and look, so the fifth observation had a missing value. And now we see that we have filled it in with the mean age. So the next thing I wanted to do is that we still have some missing data left. So for instance, when it comes to embarked town here, we only have 2 missing observations, and that's not that much. So since I think that the model will not suffer very much for just dropping these 2 observations, I will just drop them. And for that, I can use the drop NA function. And this will drop all observations which do not contain all the data. So if I run, nothing happened. And that's because I forgot to write inPlace equals true. So now if I look at the info, we see that we only have 889 rows here because we dropped the 2 observations that were missing this embarked column here. So this was taking care of all the missing values. So in the next video, we will do a bit more pre-processing in only choosing the relevant features. See you again then.